On the 31st of May this year, Zia Youssef wrote a letter to the Chief Constable of Hampshire Police. He demanded the immediate release of the body cam footage from the night Henry Novak was killed, and he cited the National Police Chiefs Council guidance, and he told the Chief Constable this was not going away. He signed it off like a man with authority over something. Zia Youssef has never been elected to anything in his life. He's not an MP or a councillor or a parish representative. He's never stood in an election, never asked for a single voter for their support, and never received a mandate from anyone. He donated £200,000 to Reform UK Limited in 2024 and was handed the title of party chairman, and has since appointed himself, or been appointed, Reform's Shadow Home Secretary. The man demanding things of chief constables controls no police force, holds no office, and answers to no electorate. This is who Laura Kuenssberg invited onto Sunday morning television to speak for Reform UK Limited on the most sensitive political story of the year. Now, to understand what happened in that interview, you need to know what happened about 12 months ago to the day. Because the Zia Youssef who sat opposite Kuenssberg in June of 2026 is not someone who arrived at his position through ability or application or democratic mandate. He's someone who left and came back, and the terms of that return tell you almost everything. In June of 2025, Youssef was Reform Party's chairman. A newly elected Reform MP called Sarah Potchin asked the question in Parliament about banning the burqa.
Will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
The question was met with groans, and Youssef, a Muslim, went public immediately. He said he had no idea that the question was coming, he called it dumb, and said that he had no sense for a party to ask the Prime Minister to do something their own party wouldn't do, because Reform UK Limited had no policy to ban the burqa. Hours later, he resigned. In a public statement, he wrote that he no longer believed working to get Reform government elected was a good use of his time. And for about 48 hours, it looked like principle. Then Nigel Farage gave his version. Youssef hadn't resigned over Islamophobia in the party. He'd been burnt out. He'd snapped under the tirade of personal racist abuse online from the very hard extreme right. Not us. Farage was very careful to clarify that. The proper far right. Exhaustion and personal pressure were his explanation now, not principle. And then Youssef came back. In a joint interview with Farage on the Sunday Times, he called the resignation a mistake born of exhaustion. He adopted Farage's framing entirely, and on the question that had apparently driven him to resign, the burqa question, the one he'd called dumb and gone public about, he told the Sunday Times that if he was an MP, he'd probably vote to ban face coverings himself. He resigned over a question he called dumb. He returned and said he agreed with it. Now don't worry, I am getting to some clips. You're not just going to listen to my voice for the entire video. But I think it's really important to get the context of this. Now, at the time, a Huffington Post journalist had sources inside Reform UK Limited, and they described the mood when Youssef's resignation landed.
I spoke to a few people in Reform at that time, and one of them I remember vividly saying to me, we are popping the champagne corks at Reform HQ that he's gone because he is mad and a nightmare to work with. Zia Youssef is an absolute loose cannon.
Oh, well, he's been really on one lately, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, this comes back to this, what the hell is going on with Reform? There's no internal party discipline, it would appear, and Zia Youssef, as you say, not even an elected politician, it just seems to be completely out of control right now, and that, again, I think speaks to this idea that they are really feeling the pressure in Makerfield and are losing it, frankly.
So I think it's safe to say that he wasn't brought back because Reform UK Limited missed him. He was brought back because he was useful. And here's a question that's been bothering me a little bit. What were the terms? I mean, Youssef's never stood in a by-election. Not the Runcorn and Helmsby one, not the Gorton and Denton one. He's not even standing in the Makerfield one. Reform, supposedly has struggled for candidates, and Youssef has not put his name forward. He's returned to senior role policy, fundraising and media appearances and everything except the one thing that would make him democratically accountable. The party that campaigns on being the voice of ordinary people against the political establishment has, as its Shadow Home Secretary, a man who donated his way in and apparently has never been asked to face voters. I mean, you can draw your own conclusions about why that might be. So that's who sat down opposite Laura Kuenssberg, a man who resigned on principle and returned without it, a man whose own colleagues were relieved to be rid of, and a man who has never stood an election and is planning the Home Office. Kuenssberg had one question for him, and she asked it 4 times. What was more important for Reform UK Limited this week, making political argument or respecting the wishes of Henry Novak's family?
What was more important to Reform this week, making that political argument that you believe in or respecting the wishes of the family?
Well, Laura, did you listen to the full statement from Henry's father?
You're here having appreciated your time coming in to ask questions. Obviously, we've just played the statement from Henry's father. He made plain lots of things. Obviously, they're very unhappy with what happened to the police.
And he doesn't answer. He goes straight to the police race action plan. The Hampshire guidelines, the language about not treating people the same, the explicit instructions that officers must prioritise offences causing most harm to ethnic minorities. Which, I don't know, maybe it's an argument that you can make, but it's not an answer to the question that it was posed. Kuenssberg asks again, and again, and again.
My question to you, though, is what is more important, the political argument that you're trying to make, which you believe in very deeply, or respecting the family's wishes when they clearly said, do not turn this into a big political argument?
OK, so I'm going to assume you did listen to the whole statement because you're a fastidious politician. You played a part of it, a very small segment of it. I defy you to tell me that the vast majority of your viewers disagree with that statement.
But my question to you is, what was more important to you as a party, making that political argument or respecting the wishes of a grieving family? And I would say we've talked to the family's representatives this weekend, and they have said they would like to reiterate that they did not want this to cause division in the last few days. So what was more important to you as a party, making this political argument, as Nigel Farage did, within 24 hours, recording what he called an emergency address? So I'll ask you the same question again. What was more important to you, respecting the family's wishes or making a political argument?
Respecting the family's wishes, which is what we've done.
And when he finally does answer it, it's a lie. It's a provable lie. He says he's respecting the family's wishes. Here's what they actually did. Mark Novak made his statement on Monday. Farage recorded his emergency address on Tuesday morning. Nobody from Reform UK Limited contacted the family until Thursday, 2 days after the address went out. Kuenssberg states this directly in the interview, and Yousaf doesn't dispute it. He's just kind of trying to deflect it by hiding behind private conversations.
You said that you respect the family more than you wanted to make a political argument. As I understand it, there's been no direct contact, though, between Nigel Farage and the family, and it wasn't until Thursday that anyone from Reform reached out to them, which was 2 days after he made that, what he called an emergency address.
Well,
Should you have contacted them earlier?
I am not going to comment on confidential and private conversations that Nigel Farage, our party leader, has. That would be inappropriate.
The family's representatives reiterated their wishes to the BBC that same weekend. They did not want Henry's death used to cause division. That is on their record. What followed for the next 10 minutes was largely unchallenged. Kuenssberg had her question, and to be fair, she just kept returning to it. But Yousaf was given the space to repeat the two-tier policing argument in almost every answer, structural anti-white racism embedded in police guidelines, the only explanation for what actually happened to Henry. And now, here's the thing about that argument. There's a legitimate debate about whether police guidance had created imbalances on how officers make decisions. That debate exists and it deserves to be had seriously. But Yousaf doesn't apply the argument seriously. He just applies it to everything. In the days before this interview, the journalist with Reform UK Limited sources described him as someone who found one political lever and was just pulling it regardless of context.
He seems to be kind of attacking everyone he's always attacked the BBC, but he sort of suggested the BBC should be off air in some tweets.
Well, he'd defund it if there was a reform government, and the Henry Novak...
Tragedy.
Yeah, the Henry Novak tragedy has really just put rocket boosters under Zia Yousaf of late. I mean, I think the guy must live on Twitter. He is never off it, and he is just really pushing this two-tier policing, two-tier justice, anti-white prejudice in the UK, and no one seems to be reining him in. I mean, I think it's a lot of this stuff just seems a bit demented, by all means, push that as a political argument. That's perfectly fine, but do it in a less aggressive, angry way. I mean, there was even yesterday I couldn't believe it when I saw it. He went mad on Twitter about the fact that the government is going to start prioritising prostate cancer screening for black men over the age of 45, I think between 45 and 74, because black men are statistically twice as likely to get prostate cancer as the general population. Everyone thinks, well, that's sensible. You know, if you can catch it before it's diagnosed, you know, if you can diagnose it before there's any symptoms, better chance of saving these people's lives.
Absolutely.
And no one argues with that. And Zia Yusuf kicked off saying, on the very day when we're exposing, you know, two-tier Britain, they choose today to announce this policy. Where are the drugs that are only for white people? And one person pointed out, well, they're not given drugs. This is just a test. It's not even about drugs. But I looked through Labour politicians slagging off, Conservative politicians slagging off. There was a guy who's Restore supporter, came on saying, this is ridiculous, Zia. This is crazy. I mean, there's a very good medical reason for doing this, but he just got into a space in his head where anything is fair game when it comes to pushing this anti-white political agenda.
I mean, this is about a targeted cancer screening program designed to catch cancer earlier in a group that's disproportionately develops it. And here is a man that's just found a formula and can't just stop returning to it. But then there was also this little Freudian slip in his interview.
That what happened in those terrible moments was a result of what you say is anti-white racism rather than just police incompetence. What's your evidence for that?
Okay, so here's my evidence. The Police Race Action Plan, both the National Police and Hampshire Police, which explicitly, astonishingly, staggeringly, actually. I mean, I actually could not believe, as somebody who is a full-time politician, I couldn't believe.
Did you catch that? He said that he couldn't believe that somebody who was a full-time politician. I mean, he catches it and moves on quickly, but it's there, it's out, isn't it? He nearly categorised himself as a full-time politician.
I mean, I actually could not believe, as somebody who is a full-time politician, I couldn't believe what I was reading.
The very thing that he is not. And the thing Reform UK's Limited's entire identity depends on him not being. The anti-establishment party, the ordinary people taking on the system, with an unelected donor in the Home Affairs spokesperson position, you know, who calls himself the Shadow Home Secretary. And there it was, he nearly called himself a career politician on national television. And then later in the same interview, he says this.
And if you vote for a Reform MP and we get a Reform government, Nigel's the Prime Minister, I'm the Home Secretary.
A man who has never been elected to anything, has never asked a single voter what they think of him, has already determined that he will be the Home Secretary. Mark Novak asked for one thing. Don't use my son's death to divide people. His family representative said it again to the BBC that same weekend. It's not a complicated ask if you think about it. What they got was a Yusuf on national TV announcing his cabinet career, repeating two-tier policing argument he applies to cancer screening programmes, nearly calling himself a full-time politician and telling the interviewer that the Reform UK Limited has respected the family's wishes, whilst being unable to confirm that anyone from the party had actually spoken. All he really is a man that donated 200,000, resigned with principle and returned without it, is celebrated internally as a loose cannon, has never stood in an election and is planning the Home Office. I have a feeling that if Farage ever does get into power, we're going to see the desecration of democracy. And Zia Yusuf is the walking proof of that already.